Tinúviel by J.R.R. Tolkien. The leaves were long, the grass was green, the hemlock umbels tall and fair, and in the glade a light was seen of stars in shadows shimmering. Tinúviel was dancing there to music of a pipe unseen, and light of stars was in her hair, and in her raiment glimmering. There Beren came from mountains cold, and lost he wandered under leaves, and where the elven river rolled, he walked alone and sorrowing. He peered beneath the hemlock leaves, and saw in wonder flowers of gold upon her mantle and her sleeves, and her hair like shadow following. Enchantment healed his weary feet, that over hills were doomed to roam, and forth he hastened, strong and fleet, and grasped at moonbeams glistening. Through woven woods in elven home she lightly fled on dancing feet, and left him lonely still to roam, in the silent forest listening. He heard thereof the flying sound of feet as light as linden leaves, or music's welling underground in hidden hollows quavering. Now withered lay the hemlock sheaves, and one by one with sighing sound, whispering fell the beechen leaves in the wintry woodland wavering. He sought her ever, wandering far, where leaves of years were thickly strewn, by light of moon and ray of star, in frosty heavens shivering. Her mantle glinted in the moon, as on a hilltop high and far she danced, and at her feet was strewn a mist of silver quivering. When winter passed, she came again, and her song released the sudden spring, like rising lark and falling rain and melting water bubbling. He saw the elven flowers spring about her feet, and healed again, he longed by her to dance and sing upon the grass untroubling. Again she fled, but swift he came. Tinúviel, Tinúviel, he called her by her elvish name, and there she halted, listening. One moment stood she, and a spell his voice laid on her, Beren came, and doom fell on Tinúviel, that in his arms lay glistening. As Beren looked into her eyes, within the shadows of her hair, the trembling starlight of the skies he saw there mirrored shimmering. Tinúviel, the elven fair, immortal maiden, elven wise, about him cast her shadowy hair, and arms like silver glimmering. Long was the way that fate them bore, o'er stony mountains, cold and grey, through halls of iron and darkling door, and woods of nightshade morrowless. The sundering seas between them lay, and yet at last they met once more, and long ago they passed away, in the forest singing sorrowless. Tinúviel is the elvish name of Luthien. The tale of Beren and Luthien is the love story of Middle-earth, but it doesn't take place in The Lord of the Rings. It's one of the defining tales of the Silmarillion, and I leave you to explore that yourself. The central tension in the story is the fact that Beren is a mortal man, while Luthien is an immortal elf. It's a bit like the Montagues and the Capulets from Romeo and Juliet, but with many more fantasy elements. Luthien ultimately gives up her immortality in order to wed Beren. Spoilers. Luthien was inspired, of course, by J.R.R. Tolkien's wife, Edith Mary Tolkien. Their own courtship was troubled not by differences of race, like Beren and Luthien, but of religion. Edith ultimately converted to Catholicism from Protestantism in order to marry John. To give you an idea of how important religion was in the 1910s, Edith's landlord turned her out of her lodgings when she announced she was converting. The pair married in Warwick in 1916, and 3 months later Tolkien was dispatched to fight on the Western Front of World War I. He spent several years as a lieutenant in the Lancashire Fusiliers, and included coded messages in his letters so that Edith could track her husband's location on the continent without alerting the wartime censors. While Tolkien was stationed at Kingston upon Hull in Yorkshire in 1917, the two went walking in the woods together, and Edith began to dance for him in a clearing among the flowering hemlock, a sea of white flowers. This incident inspired the story of the meeting of Beren and Luthien, and from that emerged Tinúviel, which we have just heard.